Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. Today I'm joined by the lovely Clare Downham. In this conversation, we talk about judgment and procrastination, that feeling of overwhelm. We talk morning success rituals and how we beat ourselves up with them and what it means to really take care of yourself. The truth bombs that fall out of Clare's mouth just had me stopping in my tracks on a couple occasions. Let me tell you a little bit more about Clare Downham's story. Clare was a head teacher when in March of 2015, she walked out of work and never went back. A year after burning out, she resigned from her 20-year career in education and retrained as a hypnotherapist and more recently, a transformational coach. Until the start of 2020, Clare had immersed herself in self-development therapy, reading and learning in an attempt to fix herself. She never felt like she was quite finished, making change after change that was short-lived and never feeling quite good enough. Recently, Clare came upon a completely different way of understanding how human experience is created, which has allowed her to finally be okay with who she is and where she is in life. Clare, now known as the Queen of Calm, uses the power of transformational life coaching to take professional women from overthinking and overwhelm to feeling calm and thinking clearly. You may just feel a bit more relaxed and calm yourself after this conversation, so grab a cuppa and join me and Clare, the Queen of Calm. Hi, Clare. It is lovely to see your beautiful face today.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to see you too.
Yeah, thank you for joining me here. So, what do I want to say about Clare before we begin? I think I started wondering about you when I met you in a Zoom call and I saw Queen of Calm. And I thought, who calls themselves the Queen of Calm? Who is this person? And I think it's lovely for multiple reasons as I've gotten to know you. First of all, because you do have often this beautiful calming voice. And, I have an experience of that calm space when I talk to you often. And also because it wasn't always your experience. Right? As I've come to know you, that calm was not, well, it might have been your natural state, but it wasn't your normal state for a very long time.
So, a very, very long time.
Yeah. So would you tell me a little bit about what calm means to you?
Well, probably something really different to what it used to mean. So I think I used to think that was something that I could create by, doing things like I meditated every day, like almost religiously for about 4 years. And so I felt like, I guess it was something for me to do, to achieve, to get to. And that also then it would be kind of through me working hard at it, which I'm laughing about now. It would be there all the time. But that's become something very different now. It is so much more now that I can be in a state of distress, wound upness, anxiety, and underneath that, there's this feeling of that's okay. And I think the okayness, it's like okayness. It's okay to be riled up because I know what that is now. It's okay to be frustrated about things. It's okay to snap at my other half. That's all okay. I'm okay all the time. So it's a very different interpretation of it than what it used to be. It used to be something to do, to get to achieve, and now it feels like it's more like an undercurrent of life. I think there's a nice metaphor about, when I've never done diving, but I've seen the idea of when there's a storm above and the divers down below, and they can look up from that calm place under the water, and there can be literally, bangs and crashes of thunder and lightning and the waves going mad, but underneath they're in this beautiful calm space. And I think that's how I talk about it now.
Cool. That feels really nice. Thank you. See, I'm getting the experience already. So you had mentioned this hamster wheel of self-care, and I have seen it. I have seen it in myself. I have seen it in particular. It seemed like last year I was exploring this a lot, probably because I was exploring it personally. I was also seeing it with client playmates who said, oh, self-care, that's what makes me feel good. That's what helps me maintain. I was just listening to someone the other day who's in the midst of 2 different launches. And he said, launching sucks. It's stressful. I have to do at least 3 things for myself every day just to be able to maintain. And I thought, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but it also makes total sense. If I feel like crap, unless I do these things, my meditation, I used to have a very long involved morning success ritual for many years that involved meditation and yoga and journaling and reading and mantras and certain exercise. Oh my goodness. I can't even remember exactly everything that was in it, but there was so much in it. And if I didn't do that, I would feel like crap the rest of the day. Now, not necessarily because I didn't do it, but because I'd be thinking about, oh my God, I didn't do my routine. And there was so much pressure around it. So I've seen this in a lot of people, and there's a beautiful intention behind it. I want to feel better. What is going on there? And how do we get off of that hamster wheel?
So what is going on there? I think layer upon layer of things, probably. I think maybe it starts with the categorization of feelings. Some are okay and some are not. It seems that there's a message out there in the world, isn't it? You could literally, split a piece of A4 paper down the middle. In fact, I had a conversation, one of my first conversations with a child the other day, a coaching conversation. And that's what we talked about. She could tell me which feelings should go in the tick column and which ones should go in the cross column. And she was 7. And she already knew like happiness and, peace and all these things go down here, and you're not allowed to be angry, and you're not allowed to feel, she's frightened of buzzing insects. You're not allowed to feel this, that and the other. And so I think it starts there. So
wait, are you telling me, Claire, that there aren't good and bad feelings?
It turns out not.
Okay, like stop that right. Like, okay, you got to tell me more about this. Like, what do you mean?
Well, because I think we think that feelings are coming from somewhere that they're not. So when we have an uncomfortable feeling, that's about the strongest word I'm going to use, one that we might feel when it's not a preferred feeling, we think there's something wrong. Either there's something wrong in the world, or there's something wrong inside us, that we're malfunctioning in some way, and that's why we've got this horrible feeling. And it turns out that's not really true. It turns out there's one source of feelings, and that's thought in the moment. And so because there's only one energy behind it all, it's all one thing, really. If you've got an anxious feeling, you've got some anxious thinking. If you've got a happy feeling, you've got some happy thinking. So, and anyway, like the categorization of them as bad and good, that like puts another layer of unpleasantness on our experience. Like nobody wants to feel anxious. Like nobody's going, yay, me, I'm going to go find a way to feel anxious today. Like we're not doing that. Like that doesn't make sense to me. But if we've got an anxious feeling and and we're going, oh, but that's not okay, and there's something wrong with me and I have to do something about that, either to myself or physically in the world, or I have to get out of this situation or whatever, then surely that just makes that worse. Whereas if there's a jittery feeling and there's, oh, a kind of noticing of that and an awareness of it and knowing that it's coming from thought in the moment and that actually you're okay, that that's the only source of your feelings, then there's just less extra thinking, and the extra thinking is what takes us further and further away from feeling okay. I've had a few experiences recently. So I've been telling you about, we bought a motorhome who's called Trevor. And
the motorhome called Trevor.
It's my daughter. She randomly names everything. My car's called Tina. So there you go. But Trevor went into the garage because he's an old vehicle and he needed a bit of TLC, and he went into the garage and my fiance phoned up the mechanic and I could hear the list getting longer and longer of the things that were wrong with Trevor. And I could feel myself starting to feel my heart pounding. I'm like, oh, the money, oh, what have we done? And a little bit of anger. Did somebody sell us a rubbish vehicle? How very dare they? There's all that going on. And my hands were actually shaking. Like they were actually, I could see them shake. I feel myself getting shaky. Now, in that moment, I knew that was okay. And the power of that was that because I left it alone, it passed all on its own. And that was not the way I would have responded not so long ago. I've got to do some square breathing, or I've got to go do something, or I need to do something about the situation because it's a situation that's making me feel this way. And then there's a lot more to do and a lot more to think about. Whereas if there's just, oh, I see, there's clearly some adrenaline pumping around my body right now coming from this wound up thinking, then that somehow seems less to think about and less pressure and less to do. And I think that's where the self-development kind of hamster wheel and the self-care hamster wheel can end up being like just another list of things to do. And I don't know about you and everybody else listening to this, but we're all quite busy already. Like practically in the world, we've got ourselves to be quite busy, haven't we? And we've got things practically to do and think about. Do we need ourselves to be another thing on that list?
Yeah. I started looking at my own routine last year. So I had this morning success ritual that was so elaborate. And at some point, things started dropping out of it that just didn't seem necessary, but I still needed to have it, I still needed it. And I used to have things like a placeholder. Okay, so if I'm not doing it, I'm just going to do like a mini version of this, a placeholder, like so I know it's still there if I need it. And all of this was almost self-soothing. But I started to see how I was using my self-care routine as a weapon to beat myself up with if I didn't do it. And it was one day over the weekend, it just occurred to me, like, what if I don't do it? What if I really don't need it? I can't even remember exactly how it occurred to me, like the words, but I was just like, oh, I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop doing it and see what happens. I don't have to anymore. It was like I gave myself permission to not do it. And so I didn't do it for a while. And I kind of let that experiment continue. And what I noticed was that sometimes I did elements of, I might meditate or sit down and journal or, do some Kundalini yoga exercises. I might do it later on in the day, or I might not. And I started to notice that there were certain things, certain parts of it that I actually did want to do. Like my body really did better when I had some stretches that were going on. But I didn't have to do it from a place of I have to get myself to do it. It actually started happening. And when I saw that I could do that I knew how to take care of myself without that pressure, I was able to just start doing that. And then I actually came back to, well, what is is there a routine? First of all, is there a routine that feels like would be helpful for me? And I sat with that and I said, yeah, I think that there is actually for me. Now, this is not a rule for everyone. Like there are plenty of people who don't have one, don't need one. You don't need one, right? But for me, I was like, it's not a need, but it feels like the thing to do, to just take a little bit of space for these things. And what I did, and this is again, just for me, how I started exploring it was having this space, I could do whatever I want in it. And I give myself full permission to follow whatever I know. So I can skip things, throw things out, change things, not do it at all. But I found that it's really nice to have it there because it's just, I like it. That's the bottom line. I like it. Do I need it? No. Can I get up and go through my day and be fine? Yes. But I like it.
Mm.
So that for me has been my journey with it. And I'd still like to see more about this. Well, let me, tell me what you've seen as far as that, maybe for yourself or some of your clients. Like, how do they get off the hamster wheel? It sounds like first we need to recognize that our feelings are not coming from where we think they are. So that helps right there. And then what do you see? What happens next? Or what might you explore?
I think it's the judgment. The judgment. It's the judgment that, like how I came to be where I am now, the Queen of Calm, was through a journey of trying to beat procrastination. Like that was my self-development thing. That was the thing I needed to develop. I needed to be motivated all the time because apparently that's how humans are supposed to be, not. And they're just not, are they? But I thought you were. I think because I came out of education straight sort of into the business world with not a clue, like nothing. I didn't understand anything about business. So then I guess I got into self-development because everybody around me was saying, well, if you're going to, you're your business. And so you've got to develop yourself. And then I got into kind of traditional coaching methods where there was lots of goals and lots of 12-week year plans and all that kind of stuff. And so that's how I thought I was supposed to do it like that. There was all this it's supposed to look like this. I should be doing it like that. There was a lot of shoulding. And then when I discovered that procrastination doesn't actually really exist, it's all in your thinking apparently. Well, it is. And when I started to see that, it fell away as being a thing. I started to see that it wasn't real. I was making up what I had to do, and then I was beating myself up for not doing it. And then I thought there was something wrong with me because I wasn't motivated all the time. And what I see now is that without the judgment that this is the right way and this is the wrong way, this is the right feeling, this is the wrong feeling, this is how to build a business, this is how not to build, without all of that, there's a heck of a lot more coming out of me. Like there's more creative things coming out in the world. There's more time for the people I love. There's more compassion. There's more peace. There's all of those things there's more of. But I think that's where it starts with judgment. It's as soon as we think something's wrong, we have to get into making it right, don't we? Because there's a wrong and a right. There's a duality there between what's wrong and what's right. Where there's acceptance and particularly self-acceptance, I think, there's a lot more ease. And what's coming up now is that the judgment brings about a really strong self-consciousness. So if you've decided this feeling isn't okay and you shouldn't be having it, then you become almost hypervigilant looking for it to be, you're very, very aware of when that comes up for you again. So I was like hypervigilant looking for me procrastinating. So I probably saw procrastination when I wasn't really. I was just doing a quick task that needed doing. That's what anybody else, if somebody was watching me with a camera, filming me during the day working, they'd probably just see me sitting at my computer working. They wouldn't see procrastination because they wouldn't have all that made up stuff about it that I had. and then, and I think that hypervigilance, that noticing of the thing that you think you shouldn't be like, becomes worse and worse and worse when you're judging it as being wrong. And then you have to keep doing something about it. So, and then it's a vicious cycle, really. Because I used to have a similar morning routine, just like the one you're describing. I did all these different things every single morning with the sense that I wouldn't be okay if I didn't. And I think we're probably at quite a similar place. I went through a phase of going, well, I don't need any of it now. I'm not going to do any of that. And then I recently reintroduced a sort of quite active meditation style, which I quite like, doing a bit of that. I used to be quite rigid about the kind of exercise I did in the morning. And now I'm much more, sometimes I'll get up and go for a walk. Sometimes I'll do a bit of yoga. There's a lot more flexibility around that now. I do tend to start my day with exercise, but with a sense of enjoying it, like you say, not with a sense of I'm going to fall apart at the seams if I don't. Because again, that makes us hypervigilant. If we've said to ourselves, I'm going to feel terrible today because I've not done my yoga, then you're going to notice every moment when you feel terrible, and you're going to attribute that back to the fact that you haven't done yoga. So it's a spiral. So it ends up, well, maybe it's a spiral that way. It ends up being like a hamster wheel that's hard to get off, because you think if you stop, you've stopped doing what you're supposed to do. And I think the other piece of that is the message out there is that we're a bit of a failure, aren't we, for not doing ourselves, sorting ourselves out. We're letting ourselves down. Like that's a really strong message, especially with if you're a business owner, especially with the underpinning message of you are your business. So if you're not working on yourself, you're not working on, that kind of. Would you like a bucket, Stephanie, for that one?
Yes. I'm sorry, my face is so expressive. I was like, oh,
I was like, no, that's just not. Yeah, but you only have to spend a short time in, like, maybe in a very businessy Facebook group or around some of the gurus to see that message being rammed down people's throats, really, and that's innocent. Like, those people passionately believe they found some stuff that's worked for them, and they're kind of, they're carrying on doing that, but the promotion of it to others is often, I think, not helping a lot of people.
You're saying some things, Claire, that I just want to go, well, even now, what did you say exactly? Procrastination doesn't exist. And you just said it like that, it's not even a thing. I'm like, whoa, slow your roll. Tell me about that. And you told me about procrastination isn't a thing. And I have had conversations like this, and I still love seeing it deeper for myself, how we make up this idea of this thing. You cannot take procrastination and put it in a bucket and say, here is a bucket of procrastination, right? It's not a thing that exists. It is an idea and a concept, which means it's made up of thought. And so I have made it up. And just as you were pointing out, you could be doing something like, oh, I'm procrastinating. And somebody else will be watching Claire and saying, that's not procrastination. That just looks like her doing stuff. And this came up and she took care of it. And that wasn't procrastination. It's the story that you had in your head that made it procrastination. So if we can't say this behavior is procrastination and this specific thing is procrastination, it has to be made up. And even real things, first of all, we have words like relationship. Can you put a relationship in a bucket? A relationship is made up. Because we make up these ideas of what it is. Now, it helps us to communicate in that way. But what we're talking about relationship is, who knows what that is? Could be completely different. My idea of relationship and your idea of relationship. So we have all this stuff going on, and we act as if it's real, and then beat ourselves up with, I should be doing this with it, or I have to do that with it. I should be at this point by now. Other people have that, and I don't have that. All this judgment. And so you're pointing to something that, like, even just contemplating, what have I made up about this? This is made up. It does something for me. I start to see it differently and know that I'm beating myself up with my own made up rules because I want to make myself feel better, misunderstanding that this thing is going to make me feel better. So I make myself feel bad so that I can feel better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And we're making it, all of it up, aren't we? I mean, the stuff around procrastination is because I made up a plan that I thought I was supposed to make up because somebody told me I was supposed to, and then I didn't do the plan because it was far too far into the future, which of course meant that my real-time responsive intelligence, as the lovely Michael Neal says, wasn't operating because I was off in this plan, which was about something that was going to apparently happen in 12 weeks' time if I did all these particular things. So it actually, I feel like the procrastination, as you might label it, was actually real-time responsive intelligence. It was, this needs doing now. This is the next thing to do. And I was just following that. So, procrastination, is it procrastination? Is it just wisdom kind of taking you the next step and the next step and the next step, which just happens not to be this extremely rigid plan that you've created? I mean, I used to procrastinate over writing the plan as well. because there must have been, it was almost like I was squashing down. Wisdom was saying, this is irksome, it's awful, you don't want to do it. And I was like, but my coach has told me I must, so I'm going to do forcing myself, like trying to force myself into a round peg into a square hole. Really, it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I'm starting to see these strategies, goals, plans, exercises more and more, and I don't always see this, but I am seeing it more as tools that, when engaged in service of what we know to do, like that little nudge inside that we call wisdom or intuition, or what people's like, hey, go do that thing now. There's something there for you. Like, go check that out. Do this. Go call this person. Sit here. Go for a walk over there. Like those little things that, when it comes from that, it's neutral. It's a tool. Sometimes it can be very clarifying to sit down and like come up with a vision. And sometimes it can be something that I turn into, well, I'm not fulfilling it, or I'm not moving towards it fast enough. I'm playing small and making judgments about it. I still love, and I get something out of. I just read a blog post the other day. It was a beautiful article, and it was a 10-year plan to semi-retirement. And I was like, all right, I'm up for that. Let me see what it's about. And it was very well thought out. And it went through the stages of year 1. Here's what you should be working on. Year 2. Here's what you should be working on. Year 3. And I'm laughing because I was like, wow, this person has quite the crystal ball. Now, there were things in it that spoke to me, and I said, oh, that actually kind of resonates and makes sense, that there's a certain path in developing a business where, in the beginning, it kind of makes sense to do the kinds of things. I'm trying to think, like year 1 was basically, serve a bunch of people, because you have to find out what you're doing, start creating content about what you're seeing and what you believe, because that's how you find your voice. It's like basically get in the game. This is not the time to try to identify a niche and an ideal client, because you just don't know who that is. So just get in there, let it be a little messy, and do a lot of one-on-one. And then it was get a little bit more, like think about a group program as you're filling up your one. But very rapidly, I was like, wait a minute. I don't think I want to do that. Or what if I want this before that? Why can't I just go for that if I want to? And it wasn't that he was saying, this is how it has to be. You have to do it this way. He was speaking honestly and beautifully, quite beautifully and articulately from his own experience. And there were practical pieces in there. And if I approach it from that and just let it speak to me and go, oh, that's interesting, and let it in and let it move through, for me, things settle. And I know if there's a piece of it that resonates, if there's a piece of it for me, or if there's not. And I can just let it be, oh, that's a cool idea. That's a thought. That's an interesting thought. Rather than I'm going to follow this 10-year plan, God damn it, and get myself to semi-retirement. And I'm in year 3, but I should have done this in year 2. Oh my God, I'm so behind. And someone else was talking to me about exploring his massively transformative purpose.
What's one of those?
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was like, do I want one? I'm not sure. And it was really kind of interesting to think about a massively it's basically like, okay, come up with a purpose for yourself that is really inspiring, and then 10x it, make it bigger and bigger. And then everything you do should be taking you in the direction of that. And so on the one hand, it can be beautifully clarifying, like, here is the direction, and inspiring, like, oh, whoa, I want to create this thing. And that's amazing. Like touch the lives of 100,000 entrepreneurs or something like that, right? Like, or reach 1 million children with something, wow, that can be massively inspiring. Or it can be something that we use to judge ourselves that, oh, well, I took yesterday off and I wasn't working towards my vision. Or I did this project that seems like it has nothing to do with that, and I shouldn't have because it doesn't fit my vision. Yeah.
Yeah, I think where there's rigidity, it does become a means to beat ourselves up and make ourselves wrong again, like we need any more of that. Whereas I think I like a direction of travel, that you put a destination-ish into the sat nav, and then, well, if there's some roadworks, you'll go around that, and it might take you on a different route than you're expecting, and it's not a straight line, is it? Whereas I think some of those kind of strategic things can seem like they're very straight line-ish, and I think as well, like I said before, I think there's some confusion there between, for us, there's some confusion because our real-time responsive intelligence that says, let's go do that fun project over there, even though it's not in the plan, is playing in the moment, isn't it? That's it. There's something in us that wants to just start from here and do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, or the next multiple things, or whatever it is that just occurs to us. And I think a very rigid plan, I feel like there's friction there. There's friction between going from the moment, taking the next step, and sticking to it very rigidly to a plan, which is, well, for me, that's probably why it just felt flipping awful most of the time. It just felt I can almost imagine the feeling now. I just felt out of kilter, off a lot of the time, because I was trying to force myself to do this thing that I thought I should be doing, because business owners have great big hairy audacious goals and plans and follow them to the letter, and that's what everybody else is doing. And who knows what everybody else is doing as well. I mean, that's like, even the guru stood on the stage telling us that you to do a 12-week plan and you have to have 3 goals and do all. I mean, are they even doing it, or are they sat at home procrastinating? Like, we don't know that, do we? and that links back to the feelings. Like, when we feel off, how do we know that there's not another billion people in the world feeling the same off feeling as us, but who are not judging it as being a problem? Like, there's a feeling, isn't there? And then there's always our interpretation of it. And I think that goes across business as well. When we're thinking it's got to look a certain way, and we think that person who's telling us to do it that way is actually doing that way, but possibly they're not. Possibly they're procrastinating.
You know what? Okay, here's case in point. This very article I was talking about, the 10 years to semi-retirement. The author of the article said, well, I did this out of order because I had already done these things. Like I think you don't get to joint venture partnerships and affiliate things until like year 9 or something. He's like, but I did this before. I have lots of experience. And even though I'm not in year 9 in my business, I'm doing it. I'm like,
Oh.
and I think I thought it was beautiful because this is what I see. These, and I really see them as having the best intentions, the people who are teaching strategies and formulas and systems. This is what I did here. Go ahead and, I'm going to sell it to you now because it's going to save you all this time. It's going to shortcut your process. It's going to save you the pain that I went through. And they really believe that. But if you look at what they actually did, it was never the system or the plan that they're selling you. In fact, there was some randomness about it. They didn't follow the very system that they sell to get to where they are, because that's not how it works. What they did was they reverse engineered it, and they looked at what they did and they said, oh, well, I would take out that part because that was a waste. And this was that was a detour and distraction. And, so I'm going to edit that part out and give people the steps as if that's what I followed when it's not what I did.
And actually, isn't the fun in the detours? And so they're kind of, they've had fun on their detours. They've gone off and found out things and learned about themselves. And in a way, innocently, they're denying us our fun detours, because that's where the fun is in business, isn't it? It's shaking your dice and going off and rolling your dice and then going around the board that way a little way and then going, oh, actually, no, that's a bit of a dead end. I'm going to come back off, or I've gone down a snake or whatever. It's the wrong direction. But it's okay because I've played and I've learned something, and I can then go off on a different tangent, and that's okay. Whereas if like you're saying, these people are selling a finished product as if it's the way to do things, and they, theirs was more messy than that. They're just not sharing the mess with us, and maybe if we all saw each other's mess more, we'd be kind of probably more okay with our own mess, wouldn't we? Or our own beautiful unfolding, shall we call it, rather than mess. Let's call it beautiful unfolding. We need to see each other's beautiful unfolding, don't we? Because then we know that it's okay for us to unfold how we're unfolding in our own flow.
Oh, I so love that. The beautiful unfolding. And so this brings me back to something that you said a couple times, and I really want to hear more about this. I want to see more about this personally. And I think it's really useful for people to explore. You said real-time intelligence. What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
So I have to admit to stealing it from Michael Neal. It's his little phrase, real-time responsive intelligence, because, and I think this for me is one of those places where we kind of need to think about our ancestors and how human beings were used to live, simplistically, that, from the present moment, they would feel a pang of hunger and they would go and look for food, or a baby would cry and they would always be just doing what occurred to them next. And I think we do less and less of that because we're trying to control everything. A lot of the time we think we make up a scary future, or we make up a future we really want. And so we go off into that future, and then we kind of try and this is and I've had this done to me as a coaching process. Then we go back through the steps, back to the present moment, and we go, right, if I want to make this happen or stop that happening, this is what I've got to do right now, which of course is all made up, because that thing we want to happen and that thing we don't want to happen, that's just made up. It's in the future. And so we're just not that clever at it, really, I think is probably the way to put it. When I say real-time responsive intelligence, in the present moment, I can do the next thing that occurs to me. I heard somebody say something like, I can't remember who it was, but you can't eat tomorrow's meal today. You can only eat what's in front of you. And if you sit eating today's food, imagining the food you're going to have tomorrow, you're not really going to enjoy the meal that's in front of you. And the same if you try to eat yesterday's food, or think about yesterday's food while you're eating today's food. Spoil the whole experience. And, you know, when we've got a plate of food in front of us, we can see, right, well, the next thing to eat is I'm going to eat this thing and I'm going to eat a bit of that with a bit of that. Although my daughter, she eats all her food separately in order. You know, she kind of eats things. Go figure. It's very strange. But, you know, we can just do what seems right next. So, like, I think we think we're really clever at predicting the future. Like, there's a lot of that going on at the moment, isn't there? I don't know what it's like over there, but over here, everybody's like, you know, predicting when we'll be able to go or not. You know, there's a lot of future thinking. People thinking as well, they're going to feel better in the future when they can go on holiday or do whatever it is they think they want to do. But really, we're just better at functioning in the present moment. That's where we really can follow our instincts, because our instinct, our wisdom, our, you know, intuition only really works now. It doesn't work anywhere else. And I think that's when we're most connected as well. When we're in the present moment, we've got less on our minds. We've just got what's here and now. We tend to feel calmer. And then there's a connection to something deeper, something that we're all made of, the energy of life. It's, you know, the daffodils don't bloom before they bloom. You know, they're not in the ground thinking about, they just happen, don't they? They unfold and they happen, and then they go, and then the next lot of flowers come, bluebells I think come next, or whatever. You know, there's an unfolding of it from the present moment. And when we can do that, I think we just have a nicer experience of life. And we all want that, don't we, really?
I certainly do. I absolutely do. So when I find myself getting rigid with these things that can be beautiful tools, with even trying things, you know, how can I prevent that from happening? You know, this well-intentioned thing that I do, or like maybe even something that's inspired by that real-time responsive intelligence. You know, like in the moment, my real-time responsive intelligence says, Steph, you're really wound up. Go for a walk. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I need. So now every morning I have to go for a walk at exactly that time, because that's what I need to make my, you know, like, how do I stop that from happening? How can I even see it?
That's made me smile, because I don't know what it's like in your country, but where like some football fans have like a favourite pair of pants that they that they have to wear, because once when they wore those pants, their team won the cup or whatever. So now every time their team plays, they have to wear the pants. Yeah, it's a bit like that, really, isn't it? How do we see that? I guess maybe there's something around knowing it's okay. Like if you go through, like you'll not see it till you see it. And if you still like enjoying going for the walk, and it's not, you know, it still seems to bring something pleasant, maybe it doesn't matter. And maybe there'll be a point in the future where you go, actually, I don't really want to go for a walk, and you won't go. And maybe everything in between is just life unfolding perfectly, and none of it matters. Like, imagine if none of it mattered. Really, yeah. Like if we really saw that, like, actually it doesn't matter what time I get up, or whether I go for a walk, or what time I go to bed, or, you know, and I just literally, and food, I mean, that's a whole other, we could have a whole other hour on that, couldn't we? Like what I eat. And if we didn't unpick everything, if we didn't analyze everything, if we didn't make things right or wrong, we would just flow. And so there would be a walk or there wouldn't be a walk. And then, you know, some days it might feel like you're really doing it because you think you have to, and then other days it feel fine, and maybe it's all okay.
I love that. It really doesn't matter. And there's something about when you say that I'm like, yeah, This is a game that we're playing here. And we get to play. It seems like we kind of get to play the game that we want to be playing.
Mm.
And we get to play it how we'd like to play it. And wouldn't it be fun to play it like a game where, it really doesn't matter, but if I want to wear my pants and think that it's going to make my special pants and think it's going to make the sun rise in the morning, I can do that. And that's cool. And if it doesn't work for me, I can stop doing it.
Yeah, I love that I hear playfulness then, and of course from you. But that it is a game, isn't it? And I think, I laugh more these days, and I just take a lot less things seriously. And that wasn't me. I mean, as you know, I was a crackpot before. I was so stressed out. I burnt out, with trying to control everything and trying to force everything and make it happen a certain way and do all of that.
Did you wear
now
like
it's
tight
just
tweed suits and things and like pencil skirts?
the
Pencil skirts.
glasses on the end of my nose and stuff. Yes, I probably did actually. Yes, did all of that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was trussed up in more ways than one. But I just see more and more that the lighter things are, the less serious they are. It's just a nicer way to be.
Mm. And I see too that it also is helping me to have a greater impact. Strangely enough, by having less on it, I am more present, more connected. I'm listening more to that real-time responsive intelligence that we were talking about. And it seems like I'm way more engaged. I'll tell you that. I don't know about the impact. Like I could probably measure that, but like the engagement and the satisfaction that I have in my life, for sure, I can tell you, because that's my experience. 100% is way up because I'm playing and enjoying it. And, you don't have to be as goofy and weird and quirky as me to have fun and play, like it looks different for different people, but it looks like enjoying yourself and loosening up and experimenting, trying things and being curious and seeing what might happen.
I think the curiosity is that's where a lot of the fun lies. Even over our emotional states, to have that. For me, I've had about 3 occasions recently where I've ended up quite shaky because I think I've just got a low tolerance for it now, and the adrenaline seems to kick in quite quickly. And been kind of shaky, and I've been saying to my other half, "Oh, look, my hands are shaking." That's strange, isn't it? I must be really wound up about this situation, and being able to almost talk about it in not a detached way, but in a calm. Isn't that interesting? That's really interesting that's happening. It's okay, because I kind of know. I wonder what the thinking is. Why am I so wound up about this? How interesting is that? But not in there's anything wrong way, just in it's really interesting that must have quite a bit of adrenaline now pumping around my system because I've got jittery. And that's just, that's an amazing place to be, because I would have judged that as being me having some kind of panic attack or something in the past. And now I just don't see it like that anymore.
Yeah, it sounds more like it's just, oh, isn't that interesting? I'm having this experience now. It doesn't have to mean something's wrong, and it doesn't have to mean that you need to do anything about it. From that place, if there is something for you to do about it, I think you'd probably be more likely to know. And again, like that's my own experience. But without that extra, like, oh my God, now you're throwing oil onto the fire. If you're like, oh, I have to change this, something's wrong. Am I having a panic attack? What's going on? Right. Huh.
Yeah, definitely.
So you were saying earlier when we were chatting that you're noticing more the people who you are most called to help or serve or be with these days. And who is that? What are you noticing about it?
So I'm noticing that they are very self-conscious and very dissatisfied with themselves. They've been on the self-development hamster wheel for a long time. They're probably doing some kind of routine things every day. You know, I must exercise, I must meditate, I must journal, blah, blah. They've got a lot of that going on. And alongside that, alongside the daily routine that they think is a means to hang on to their sanity by their fingernail ends, as well as that, there's probably some treatment of some description. So they're having Reiki or having, doing tapping or having hypnotherapy or they're having lots of different therapies because there's a sense that there's something wrong with them. Included in that, there's almost definitely some reflections on their past and childhood and where it's all come from. There's definitely a sense of they need to find, if they find the root cause, they'll be all right, but then they keep finding it a root cause and then that turns out not to be the one because they don't still feel okay. So they've been,
I must not have gone deep enough that time.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes. I did a lot of crying, very runny-nosed, horrible inner child sessions in my time. I've done all of that. Been back to the root cause and know exactly what the cause is now. Yeah, not really. And they probably have started to just feel like a bit exhausted with it all, really. I mean, it's almost like they've got all their tasks for the business all organised in Trello or Asana. Other organisational tools are available, by the way. And they've got a separate list that's got all the things about them that are not okay. That the next thing to work on is this, and then there's always something else to work it on. So if they feel like they've addressed one thing, then they'll know it's something else that's off, and then they'll start working on that thing. Or for me, it was more the same thing over and over again. It would go away for a bit. And then, my energy levels would fluctuate. I mean, fancy that would happen, as a woman. And I thought that wasn't okay. And so I would be procrastinating again. So they kind of probably feel like they're coming up against the same thing over and over again, or they just keep finding a different thing that they think they need to work on. It's like, I heard a 3 principal teacher say this one, and this really struck me, that there's an unreasonable expectation of what it means to be themselves.
Oh.
Like that humans are supposed to be these perfect, always happy people, or that we're supposed to be like that all the time. So it's just unreal. It's become unrealistic, and so it's almost like going for a goal that's impossible to achieve, and that's exhausting.
What is it about these people that moves you to want to reach them?
I think because that's the journey I've been on myself. After I burnt, really, initially I thought the main part of my story was burning out when I was a primary school head teacher, and then recovering from that. But actually, I think the most important part of my story is that afterwards I got onto this self-development hamster wheel and didn't really know how to get off it until I found, the understanding that we've been kind of touching on today. And it was a long time, it was 4 or 5 years kind of still doing those things all the time, and still never feeling okay with myself. So I think that's, I can see really clearly how I can help other people, it's mostly women, who are probably about my age. I'm 50, and they're, probably a similar age to me, similar kind of things going on in their circumstantial world, and they could just do without having themselves on their list of things to do.
I so love that. Take yourself off the list of things to do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So with those particular people, probably women in mind, what message would you like to give them that would make the biggest difference?
I think just to know that they're okay. That if they've got the idea that everybody else is more okay than them and everybody else is doing better than them, and there's people out there that are on it all the time or full of energy all the time, then that's just not true. I think, as I said before, whatever you're feeling right now, I guarantee that other people feel in the same way, and not all of them are reading that feeling the same way as you. Everybody's okay. And that is such a wonderful, different experience for me now, working with people I used to be a hypnotherapist. And there was always a part of me like, I've got to fix this person. That's my job, to fix them. And now my perspective is so different. I just need to help to kind of just clean the windscreen for them so they can see. Or even it's almost like, when you're looking in the mirror and the shower's been on, and it's almost like I just need to clean the window, clean the mirror for them so they can see themselves and see that they're okay. Because at the moment they can't see it. There's just something stopping them seeing it.
It's beautiful. And I feel it when you say it. And I have had this experience, when I've had a conversation with someone and they'll say, wow, it looks so simple. It feels so simple right now. I'll say, yeah, what if it really is? It is. And it's something that I think we can feel and know as true when we hear it, when we experience it, that it's so much truer than all of that thinking that was made up, that I bought into for a long time, that looked really true, that I wasn't okay, that I needed to do something to fix myself. I mean, there was a story for me about, I have issues. And once I fix my issues, I'll be okay. Somebody said to me, I can't remember the context, but I was like, you just said this to me, you have potential. you have real potential, but you need work. Like, you're kind of a fixer-upper. But I can see the good lines underneath all of that.
You're like Trevor the motorhome.
But isn't Trevor gorgeous the way he is? I mean,
yeah, he is.
There are things that you could dress Trevor up, and maybe Trevor's not the best model because we're people.
Yeah, I do. I've said this before, like, we're not cars. No. And I think it's like we've got to the stage of treating our psychological state as like a bump. Like, trauma is the bump to the side of the car, and that needs whatever you do to the bump of the side. You suck it out, don't you? Bash it back out, and then fill it, and then sand it, and then paint it, and whatever else. Like,
it's a big deal and very expensive.
It's a lot to do, but we're not that. We're the seasons. We're the weather, we're nature, we're the daffodils, and then the bluebells, and then I think we've got dandelions, and we've got clover now. We're that. We're this flowing energy that's making everything in life happen. And we've just forgotten. We've just forgotten that that's who we are. We think we're a car to be fixed up.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful metaphor. I love it. So, Claire, if people might find themselves listening to this as one of those people who are finding themselves wanting to take themselves off their to-do list or something else we've been talking about and would like to reach out to you, where can they best find you?
So I'm hanging about on Instagram a little bit at the moment. Quite enjoying my space on there, sort of releasing a little bit of video or something every day. I've even done some reels, so I'm feeling quite brave now. And then I have a lovely free experience, which is the 21 Days to Feel Calm and Think Clearly, which is an email, a 3-minute video email into your inbox every day for 21 days. And in that, there's an opportunity to have a conversation with me. So, but a lot of people are enjoying that and finding some benefit from gently starting to look in a different direction to the one they've been looking at. So they're great places to find me. So I'm guessing we'll be able to share the link to that.
I will
cool.
Absolutely share that so that you can find Claire and her 21 days of calm. Sounds lovely. Well, thank you so much, Claire, for joining me. This has been a beautiful conversation.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories, unmarketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.